Hey everyone, welcome back to another fun installment of the FXT Build. I'm going to show you guys some stuff that I've been working on, and I can honestly say this thing should be ready to go by this week, hopefully by this weekend. So let me show you what we're doing with it so far. I guess the biggest improvement that you guys can see is the Nerf bars that I made. This is 3/4 inch, just standard round steel tubing that I got from Real King. I borrowed a tube bender, a conduit tube bender from work, and then I bent it into the shape of that. And then I didn't want to weld it on because if they were to ever get damaged, I'd like to just rather replace them. So I just made these little tabs and bolted it on. Did that on both sides. I think that looks pretty good. Another thing, we got the clutch mounted. So I've got the brake pedal. Well, it used to be a brake pedal, a go-kart brake pedal, but now it's a clutch pedal. We got that, and it moves all that back down in there. Get this thing to quit rocking. What I'll probably have to do is stiffen this area up, because when I push on it, you can't really tell by the video, but I can kind of see that plate flexing a little bit. It is thin. I do have a thick washer down there that I thought would hold it, but I guess not. But I'm just going to take probably a piece of this 1/8 inch by 1 inch flat steel, and I'll lay it in there, drill a hole, and just probably tack it down, weld it down, just kind of give this plate a little bit more stiffness to it. That way it doesn't flex whenever I have to push on that real hard. Oh, stop rocking. Another thing I addressed in the last video is where my chain was getting really close to my bearing. So I went and I bought some 7/8 machine washers. Got 3 of them in there. That gives it the perfect amount of space. It ain't hitting. And that realigns everything in the back. So we're good to go there. I had the fuel tank sitting right here. And with the fuel tank approximately right there, I only had this much room to put my foot down. And I'd like to have a little bit more room to that. A little more room than that. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the fuel tank over on that side. I hate to put any more weight onto that side, but I don't think a little gas tank's really going to hurt the offset or weight distribution any. Another thing I done is I made this little air filter. I just took a piece of plexiglass. I kind of cut out the design of my little air box there. I bought this little gray adapter plate. It's actually an automotive style air filter adapter. It was cheap. I think I got it at like Advance or AutoZone. I mean, it was dirt cheap. All it is just a hose adapter, and then some 3-inch PVC, and just kind of drilled that and just made that up somewhat like that. Made a little end cap for it. I still got to dress everything up, clean it up, paint it, and make it look better, but it'll sit about like that. So I think that'll work pretty well. I'm making a silicone gasket to fit on here, so that'll be done hopefully by tomorrow. Another thing is my plexiglass little firewall system here, which I'll probably end up putting another screw in right there. This still has the backing on it. I didn't take the backing off. What I did too also is I doubled it up. I wanted it a little bit thicker. So I mean that is pretty solid. I mean I was really impressed with that. It worked pretty well. As long as there's not a tremendous amount of heat. If my engine were to catch on fire, that's not going to survive. But it worked its purpose, I guess. And it's lightweight. Oh, just ran right into that. Another thing I installed is my mechanical oil pressure gauge. Those are also pretty cheap at the auto parts store. I got that running back into, well, you can't see it. There it is. right there. Another thing you guys can notice is I've got the headers wrapped all the way around, all the way to the back, which will pose some type of a threat for my fuel cell. But what I'll do is I'll get a plate of aluminum or something and just kind of space this up off of the floorboard with some spacers, just enough to give it enough airflow underneath there. That shouldn't hurt nothing, but that's something simple that I can whip up. Probably I'll do that at work when I'm bored. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, rear bumper. Oh, oops. Sorry about the garage. It's just a total mess right now. I got the bumper that I fabbed up. I bought this, when did I buy that? Probably a year ago or better. Bought it off a guy that I know real well, and I'm finally getting to put it on. What I did, actually the same 3/4 tube that I used for my Nerf bars, I used for back here, and then this is actually a 5/8 Allen head bolt, and the bumper, of course, it's a little stiff, but that bumper slides right off. Stop shaking. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill it and then put a safety pin on both sides. That way, if this were to get damaged, that can be replaced. I'd like to make anything and everything that I can possibly make it replaceable, make it easy to come off. Another thing I need to work on is my front bumper. Since I redid the steering mechanism, my front bumper was in the way. So the bottom's going to stay right where it's at. The top needs to come up. I need to cut these off, and then I still got some of that 3/4 inch tubing. I'll weld it here and bring it down to the bottom on both sides and just kind of redo that. That's going to get painted. Nothing's going to stay chrome. I don't want any chrome on this. I don't want it to be flashy. Hopefully this winter I can get it into a nice warm shop, get it taken apart, paint it, make it look real nice, put it back together, and we'll have a good clean looking little mower. Another thing I also did, this used to be the clutch, and it's now my throttle. So I like that a little better than the last design. I'm not a big fan of that being such a large handle, but it'll work. It'll serve its purpose, and I'll be more than happy with it. Now, big question is when I fire it up, is it going to run okay? Or am I still going to have mechanical issues? But we won't know until we get it fired up. One more thing that I want to do is make a puke tank or an overflow tank, so I can route all these lines here. I got one there. I'm going to have another one coming out, I think, from back up in here. What I'm going to do is make me a little puke tank out of PVC. I've seen a lot of people start doing it. Of course, this is a really long piece. I'm going to cut it. Let me show you a little an example here. Somebody made this for my wife's cart. So all it is just a piece of PVC. Unlike what they did, this will be my top, and I'm going to have an air filter. Somewhat about like that. Screwed around the top of here. This is probably going to be about 3 to 4 inches long. And then we'll have a little cap. And then I will put a little on and off valve down there. That way I can drain it. So this ought to make a pretty decent little puke tank. We'll get her painted up, get it looking good. Like I said, hopefully by this weekend I will get this thing roadworthy and we can take it for a spin and see how it does. I still have to set up the handling for racing. I've probably got 20 pounds in each tire. The front steering isn't exactly where it needs to be, but I'm thinking once we can get that, this thing should handle pretty good. I've got my fingers crossed. So I've got a little bit of adjustment more to do with the clutch. Just odd and end stuff take care of. I'm gonna make some little fill-in pieces here. So I think that about covers it. Besides my hood, I've got to raise this 2.5 inches, and I've got to raise this 1 inch. But once I do that, the hood should fit perfect and not hit anything, and should clear the steering quite well. I'm anxious. I am very anxious. I'm ready to get this thing fired up, ready to get it going. I know it's close to the end of the racing season, but if I can get a few laps in and get the engine broke in a little bit, enough to start tearing it apart, disassembling it, I'm going to take it to a sandblaster guy down the road in town. I'm going to have him sandblast it. We'll prime it. I also found a guy that does wraps, so I may just end up wrapping it. I don't know what kind of wrap or what colors, nothing like that, but I'll probably end up having to lay a base coat down before I have it wrapped. But we'll get into that later on in the series, and I'm going to mount my GoPro either here, or probably end up mounting it over here. I'm not for sure, but we're going to have probably 2 cameras set up on this one. So that way I may have one facing towards me in the driver's seat and one facing forward, and then just cut the video back and forth. So that's other things that are rolling around in my head. With my green and white mower, I haven't done with it in quite some time. I fired it up the other day. That thing fired right up. Idled perfect, revved up. The engine still runs great. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and look for a 33 cubic inch pressure lube single, and I may pull the engine off of the green and white mower and make it a GP style mower. There's a couple of people that I know that's wanting to go down to that, so we'll go ahead and make that one back into a GP like it first started off. And there's a couple of tracks. There's one in Effingham, Illinois, that's about an hour and 15 minutes from me. And I can still run the GP with the guys that I want to run with now, which they're probably thinking, he's never going to come back. But don't worry, guys, I'll be back. Just had to take some time off. But that's going to be in the works. That's on the plans. That's on the docket, I guess they say. So a couple more days of working on this, and this thing should be ready to fire up and take off down the road. Or not necessarily the road. I'll probably play with it in the yard. So I'm anxious. My wife's like, thank God you're getting it done. I know there's probably a lot of people sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, how long does it take him to build a mower? But hey, we're getting closer. My poor little cart stand was stretching the chains pretty bad. So I had to re-support that. I noticed that the other day. The whole mower was leaning. I'm like, I'm going to come out here one day and the whole cart's going to be laying on the floor upside down. So let me just pan back a little bit. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying tuned. Thanks for keeping up with me. I'll try to have some more updates soon. Hopefully I can have a pretty cool shot, an onboard shot of me test driving this thing this weekend. So stay close, and I will keep you guys informed on my page, Holland Grass Racing page on Facebook, and let you guys know what's going on and what steps are being made to get this thing on the track. So I am bound determined to get this thing on a track before the end of the year, and it will happen. Trust me, mark my words. So thanks, guys. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.